Hello there. On this freezing cold Friday. Yeah, it's grim. Anyway, what can I say? So, yesterday I was on the way to Glasgow to meet Dino for a chat. And we were hoping to be able to upload a filmed encounter with one of those lovable rogues, the silent mannequins, the Carters. But needless to say, they were nowhere in sight. There's usually a couple down at Buchanan Street, a couple at the entrance to Central Station. Just weren't there. Very, very odd. Maybe they got tipped off that we were in the house, but needless to say, I think that's where they were. So we're unable to bring up an encounter with the Carters today because they'd fled. But ironically, on my way to meet Dino, we just ended up sitting in a pub chatting about stuff. A guy called Peter, who I've said this before. He's a former elder in the Wirral, who I know via other people, although we've never met. And he sent me a link of a guy had uploaded a video. It's now been watched 26,000 times. He's called at XEXJW Analyzer, ANALYZER, in the sort of American way. And I put it on. It's an American guy, but literally he sort of does a sort of summing up. I think the video is about 25 minutes long. It's well worth watching, and I will put a link of the video in the description. To put up this video. Only a day ago, 26,000 views is very, very impressive, and I absolutely like his talking style. I like the way he's presented it. It's really, really good, and he does a sort of summary of the way the organise has invoked different changes and the reason for that. But the video was basically this new light. In relation to the cry of peace and security. If you were around about 1986, if you're a witness, he was 9 at the time, and I think I was 24. But anyway, I think the United Nations labelled 1986 as the year of peace. And a lot of us at that time, and the society never said anything about it, thought, well, maybe this is the precursor to the Great Tribulation. Because, of course, in order of what was supposed to happen, it was supposed to be the announcement of peace and security, then the world empire of false religion is turned on by the United Nations, and that starts the Great Tribulation. That's the start of the Great Tribulation. And then, of course, once they start attacking, the only religious group have decided that they still want to go to their kingdom halls, they still want to go at chapping doors, they still want to pray and meet in worship. But once they start attacking, that's when once they turn their attentions to the only religious group that's left in this world, then once they start attacking his people, that's when Jehovah then starts, making moves, and Armageddon starts. And that was always the order. It was always, and I was a bit confused about the way where the King of the North and all that was happening. I think that was before the proclamation of the United Nations. But anyway, and that's changed a bit. But it was always proclamations, United Nations, proclamation of peace and security by the world governments of this earth first, then the world empire force religions destroyed. But according to this Watchtower, in February, apparently there's a question of readers. Somebody's obviously trying to ask for clarification on this. And basically what the witnesses are now saying is they don't know what order that's in. In 1986, we actually thought, maybe this is it. Maybe the United Nations proclaimed 1986 as the International Year of Peace. Maybe this is a fulfillment of that scripture. And then I remember the society saying, not being absolute on this, but saying time will tell if this is the fulfillment of that scripture. That was 1986. Certainly nothing's happened since then that I'm aware of. Ironically, it's funny, when COVID came, again, they said the same thing. Maybe this is a fulfillment of, and then we'll just have to wait and see. And you're thinking, ooh, maybe this is it. COVID's come. Um, Maybe this is it. Nobody's meeting. Maybe this is it. Nobody's able to meet in their religious buildings. Maybe this is a fulfillment of the world of empire false religion being shut down. Because that time every religious building was shut down. Religion was meeting together. Worship was finished, including the witnesses. But of course, we're now out of COVID. So yet again, the Jehovah's Witnesses, thinking this is a fulfillment, are now going a couple of years later, going, maybe not. But the fact that they've now changed the running order of events, the first sign that we were to look for, this proclamation of peace and security, apparently now they're saying they don't know when what order that comes in. So all of a sudden you're doing the work. So is it now the United Nations turns on religion, and once it's closed down everything, then they proclaim peace and security, because of course a lot of the people are fighting over religion. We've put an end to that, so now we'll proclaim peace and security. I don't know, but it's interesting that they've changed this point, and it's this very point about the and if we do meet the if the Carters ever reappear again, I'm going to mention this fact, and I'll say, can you tell me the order at which point and why it's changed? Well, let's see if they notice that it's changed, but why has it changed? Why has this order of, that we ended up with the 1,000-year rule of Jesus in a paradise earth where you can stroke badgers? Why has this all of a sudden changed? Because if it comes down to this old chestnut of the light, there's new light and the light gets brighter. As the guy says, and Dino actually brought up this point not so long ago, as the guy said in the video, normally when the light gets brighter, there is more clarity. But, for instance, if I turn off this light right now, to demonstrate, you can't see me. You really can't see my face. Have I got a beard on? You can see these lights, but there's no clarity. And yet, when we turn on the light, ta-da! Now we have clarity. But we've gone from being very absolute clear about how the proclamation of peace and security would come first. And it's said so many times, this comes first. Then we have United Nations turning on the world empire false religion. But now to say we're not too sure, it appears as though instead of going from this, we've gone to this. Which is the exact opposite of the light, of new light, of the light getting brighter. In fact, it's actually getting darker. Now we're not too sure. We don't know if I have got a beard or not. We don't know, because it isn't new light, it's new darkness. It's new darkness. We don't know. The same thing with the generations. It's new darkness. It isn't new light. New light brings about assured clarity, but new darkness puts everything hazy again, and we don't really know. So when the witnesses use that term of the light getting brighter, you have to turn around and say, actually, no, the light's getting darker and darker. There isn't new light, it's new darkness. Because now you can't explain things anymore. And now it's ambiguous. Less clarity. It's just incredible. Anyway, the guy puts it a lot better than I can, but I suggest watching this video. Partly Peter, he's a subscriber to this guy, and says that his points are very good, and he does a summary at the end of all the different changes that recently happened. Speaking to Dino yesterday, he something that I did prophesy a long time ago, that probably they're going to change the thoughts on birthdays. He seems to think that apparently this recently did come up of voting on birthdays in the governing body, and it was a dead heat. It was like 50-50. We needed somebody to make the final vote. Maybe, I don't know who that could be. Maybe it could be the House Speaker. Sorry, that was a Trump joke for those who didn't get that one. So maybe it is. Maybe in the future we are going to go down the road that the witnesses are going to finally admit. Do you know what? There's no real scriptural basis for not celebrating birthdays, and that we're now going to say that New Light has decided that we can celebrate birthdays again. I did say this a long time ago, and I'm still standing by that. That I think the witnesses will change that point, that you'll be able to celebrate birthdays. And for all the people who've missed out celebrating birthdays of their children, now the children grown up, they'll be thinking, hold on a second, what the fuck's going on here? Anyway, it is what it is. There's one more thought I was going to come out with, and it's absolutely gone out of my head what this was now. But anyway, it's the end of this year. I've got my dad's funeral on Monday. Then I've got, and it's funny. I was saying this to Peter. For me. And not only is it the end of that relationship, it's the end of my tie with the town that I spent 21 years in, Ellesmere Port. I always said that the moment that my dad passed away, that there'd be no reason for me to go to Ellesmere Port, and I don't think there is. I only went there, to see my dad, and apart from maybe I don't know. I don't think I'd go back there again. And it is, so it's sort of, I probably drove in, when I drive at Ellesmere Port on Monday, maybe the last time I'll ever go there, which is quite thought-provoking to think you're finally leaving the town that you spent 21 years and that you're brought up in, and never see it again. But I don't, it's, if anybody knows Ellesmere Port, it's definitely gone downhill since I left there 42 years ago, whenever it was. So anyway, it's a sobering thought, and I'm still I'm a bit dreading the funeral money because I'm going to be a pallbearer as well, and I don't know how I'm going to cope actually. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to cope. We'll see. But anyway, at least I will be there with my my closest family, and I'm sure we'll all support each other and get through the day. Unfortunately, it is a Catholic funeral, so, as I've said before, so. And I don't know what the guy who's going to be will say about my dad, I really don't. For instance, not so long ago we were visiting my dad. Well, it was a bit ago actually, I think about it, before we had Benjamin. So maybe 27 years ago. And me and my wife had just come back from Egypt, and we'd said we'd gone to Egypt, and we'd seen a bit of the when we went down to the Great Pyramid. We'd seen a bit of the Suez Canal, and my dad, who was living with who'd become his new wife, and he says, "I've been up the Suez Canal," and because he used to be in the Merchant Navy, and his wife says, "No, you haven't." And he goes, "Yes, I have." And I'm thinking, oh my God, how much of my father's previous life it does this woman even know? So I'm a little worried that when they do actually give the recap of his life, will they get those bits right? Will they say that he travelled, to New Zealand and Australia and New York and in the Merchant Navy, and that he saw most of this world? I don't know. But I'm not giving it, and I haven't been asked for any input. So. I'm a little bit of dread with that one. So anyway, another thing I've just remembered what I was going to say is, Dino also mentioned as well when we spoke yesterday that this whole thing about generation, that one of our closest friends, Ian, who's in Always Away with us, one of my longest standing relationships I've ever had. I met him in 1980, and he's the reason why I moved to Scotland in the first place, really. His dad died. His dad's funeral was the Saturday just gone, and it was held in the Kingdom Hall. And I don't know how old his dad was. Probably around about the same age as my dad, which means my dad and his dad probably died about the same time. I think he was probably round about 88, something like that. And Dina was thinking, said to me, she said, just to think that in the wildest imaginations, you'd never think that his generation would pass away before Armageddon would come. And now they are. And that the witnesses rewrote the interpretation of Matthew 24 to ensure that this overlapping generation was this sort of anointed generation who are now younger than David Gill was when he died in 1988. So it's and even younger than me. So isn't it funny? And it's like, where to next? When what they're going to do when they reach the end of that generation? Yeah, it's interesting things because they're just changing things so much is that you just have no faith and no confidence in anything that they're coming out with, because you know that it is a lot of bullshit. That does remind me of Donald Trump. Anyway, I'm going to go now. I wish you all a fantastic Christmas. Hopefully, despite most of you being ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, that you managed to, you can now celebrate Christmas without feeling guilty. It's all right. Let it go. You can now do this. You won't be punished by Jehovah. You know, just get on with it. And especially have a happy new year. 2024, yeah, not the best one for me, to be honest with you. Hopefully in 2025 is going to be a better one. I hope it is, but you never know. I said that about last year. I hope 2025 is going to be better than 2024. I remember the thing I was going to say as well. Actually, in relation to, ironically, this United Nations being such a weak power that it is, to think that the witnesses still believe that the United Nations are going to have the ability to close every synagogue and every mosque and every church, especially if you think about every mosque in all the Islamic countries, they're going to do that? Really? Oh my God. Nobody in their right mind would think that every religion could be closed, and every temple, every synagogue, every mosque, every church, every cathedral could be closed down, and all these fervent people who've worshipped this way of all their lives generationally, going back 500, 1,000 years, or 2,000 years, or whatever it is, are going to just say, right, okay, fair dues, we're not going to fight against that. And that the only organisation who's still going to be going, who still want to meet in their kingdom hall, apart from COVID, of course, still want to go out chopping doors, apart from COVID, of course, dear that, would be the Jehovah's Witnesses. Yes, they were the only religious group who would still be wanting to worship, and all the rest of them would say, oh, fair dues. Anyway, on that thought, I'm now going all the best, and see you next year. Yeah, bye bye.